I want to talk about that point a little bit more because I think that's what is getting lost in this conversation. Opponents of this are saying there's going to be violent criminals released onto the streets. You're saying that's not necessarily the case. I want to get your reaction from a response from House Republican leader Tony McCombie. And she said this in a statement: the end of cash bail means the legal deck is stacked against the victim and community in favor of the criminal. This law makes it more difficult for police officers and prosecutors to keep our communities safe by ensuring offenders in most cases can walk free shortly after committing a heinous offense. So what do you say to those people, largely Republicans, who say that this is going to make communities less safe?
I feel bad for them, actually. I mean, their base is so right wing right now. You have this sort of Trumpian element, people who adhere to the sort of Rudy Giuliani style of fighting crime, right? Look, let me repeat what this bill has. Every victims' rights group, every major victims' rights group, statewide and also regional, including domestic violence survivors and sexual assault survivors, helped draft and write this bill. And if you watch the implementation press conference, they were right there front and center. If you watch any of the implementation conversations we had, they were front and center. In fact, State's Attorney Eric Reinhart sat with domestic violence survivors to go through the victims' rights components of this bill. She's literally leaning on a talking point around victims because she has nothing else to do. But let me repeat, this is a victims' rights-centered bill, and these opponents are literally against victims' rights groups. They're against the Illinois Coalition Against Domestic Violence. They're against CASE, the Chicago Alliance Against Sexual Assault. They're against the Network Against Domestic Violence. They're literally against people who have to deal with survivors every day, all so they can appeal to their right-wing base. I feel bad for them. I wish them the best of luck keeping their community safe, but they're tied to an old system and they're tied to an old politics. And that is why they got their butts beat multiple times in elections, because instead of focusing on what needs to get done for their community, they're playing this right-wing politics. They should maybe focus on their January 6th base and not focus on trying to lock up poor Black people every second they can. I wish them the best of luck. There's a reason why they're the minority party and not the majority party, and they should maybe change their act. I hope their constituents know that when something bad happens, that when that person is a threat to somebody else, under the new system, they now will be able to be detained, not because they have money in their wallet, but because they actually are a threat to somebody. And that their elected leader would prefer that person be able to pay themselves out than have to go through a safety determination. That's really depressing, and it's really sad, but that's the state of the Illinois Republican Party. I think oftentimes you heard this thing where they try to bring up purges. This is going to be the Purge Act, they once called it. And I try to remind people the only purge that happened in Illinois is that the Republican Party got their butts beat, and they had to change their leadership because they fundamentally failed to do their job.